What up guys, how's it going? This is Bharat and welcome back to yet another video. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I learned 7 different frameworks slash programming languages in this last 12 months. So basically 2020, how did I learn this much and what is the language slash framework that I learned and what are the materials that I use for all of that and how do you can actually use that and learn things faster is what I'm going to be covering as part of this video. Also, this type of an year-end review, so I'm going to be doing this every single year. So if you're interested, make sure to watch it till the end and let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Also, very important thing, if you guys are not following me on Instagram, I would highly recommend you guys to go now follow me on Instagram. The reason being that I'm going to be coming out with a simple contest in upcoming weeks, and the winner of the contest, 5 different winners, will be getting up to 1000 INR gift cards. So basically the gift cards will be debited to you, to your Gmail account or whatever account you're going to give me, and I'll notify you guys all through Instagram only. So if you guys are interested, go check me out and follow me on Instagram and come back and watch this video. Alright, that's it for the intro. Let's get this video started straight away. I've got a lot of things to cover. So basically, I started with a lot of different things in my mind when I started this year. I had a lot of different things I wanted to I was very ambitious. I wanted to do a lot of different things for the channel, for myself, for my personal growth. And I soon realized as soon as I went inside the year of 2020 that I could not do that. So basically what I did was made a checklist of what I want to accomplish in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and the final quarter. And my first 3 quarters, even the 2.5 quarters went really well. I could learn 4 different frameworks. I even made videos on the 4 different frameworks for you guys on YouTube, and for myself I learned even 1 separate framework for work related stuff. And the last 2 quarters, I would say 1.5 quarters, has not gone as well. So the primary reason being that I got really stuck up with work. I was procrastinating for a lot of reasons, and the lockdown was taking a toll on myself. So a lot of different things. So basically I learned few things, I could accomplish a few things. So the first one that I did learn better was Dart slash Flutter. That's what I have as my first point in the list. So basically Dart, if you guys know, I made a very introductory video series on that, covering all the basics of it, all the OOPS concept and all of that. Previously in the 2019, I was really into Flutter, but did not pick up any of this Dart related stuff. So in 2020, I wanted to really go delve into Dart, and that's what I did. In the first quarter of this year, I learned Dart to the end. I could even hack a little bit of Dart, hack the WebDriver on .dart, and also even made an automation series on that for you guys on this channel. So if you guys are interested, go check that out. So that's what I learned as my first specific programming language. Was I very interested in learning that? I wasn't like planning on learning Dart, but it was more of a necessity for me to learn so that I could do a few other things with Flutter. So what are the resources that I'd use for specific to Dart? The number one resource I banked upon was the documentation. But the documentation aren't really completely available for Dart, basically because even the Flutter team, the Flutter team which is using Dart, or the Dart team inside Google, they aren't really interested, or they aren't really looking forward to putting a very documented version of Dart. Primarily it's because it's a mixture of JavaScript, Java. You could even say there's a bit of Python inside it. So its syntax is everywhere. It's very easy to use. And at the same time, the concepts are also taken from different languages and different architectures. So basically, it's a amalgamation of everything. So the documentation was okay. I would say I would rate it a 5 to 10. And the first documentation I used was the official documentation from the Dartpad or Dart dev, and that's what was useful for me. So the timeline I took for learning Dart was about 30 days. By the end of this 30 days, I could even do complex stuff with Dart. Basically, if you remember from my automation series, what I did was I looked into the WebDriver.dart, which is nothing but a simple Google Chrome driver, which was built on Dart. I fixed a couple of issues on that. So basically I was able to understand the entire basic driver.framework itself. And once I fixed a couple of issues, I did build an end-to-end automation script with .dat file. So that was what I had in mind even before I started learning Dart, and I could very well do it. And once I could pick up Dart, I learned a little bit inside and out of Flutter. I could even write a plugin on my own, and all of that were possible, and that's how I could do it. Now, in my videos, I've always told, if you're interested to learning a programming language faster, always have a goal. My goal was to learn Dart so that I could hack a little bit of Flutter itself. I want to really hack a little bit into the Flutter core project, which was possible. Even before I could hack into Flutter, I could do a little bit of issue fixing, bug fixing for the Dart open source itself. So that was my whole goal, and I applied it every single day. Once the first day itself, I learned about the basics of Dart, starting from the syntax, the data structures, and what are the different types of function overriding, class overriding. All of that I learned in the first couple of days itself, and I started applying it on every single day basis. And once I started applying it on every single day basis, it was very, very easy for me to complete the entire thing in just 1 month. So that's my first thing I learned. Extremely useful programming language, but not very widely used. That was Dart. And let's go to the second one. Okay, so this is a very interesting thing. The second framework that I learned was Redis. I don't know how many of you know about Redis. Basically, Redis is a redistribution module which is written for database caching, database messaging, and all of that sort. This was a requirement for basically to use for me inside my company, and I learned Redis basically with a lot of different tools and a lot of different documentation. I did use the official documentation, but it was a little bit too much for me because all the concept of this database distribution was very new for me. I hadn't known it prior. So what I did was I took a very simple crash kind of a course. Basically, this wasn't the crash course as such, but this was a simple tutorial which was written from start to end. I also viewed few videos, and I could understand what the module was doing and how I could use it. And I was primarily using it for Python. So I used the Python language and used this tool or module, and I was able to do some work related items, basically complete my work related items. So there is one thing which I want to actually make sure to give you guys as part of this learning. So when Redis is something completely new for me, the whole idea of distribution and data distribution, memory management, database messaging, all of this is completely new for me. So how did I learn it in less than 1.5 months? So what I did was I did not go into the deep end basics of Redis. So I knew again what my goal was. My goal was to implement a system which is going to take the database data, take the database items and make sure that I could distribute it properly, and also make sure to implement it as part of a Django framework. So my goal was very simple. I wanted to use Redis. I understood about what Redis did, and I definitely knew it was useful for me. So I was goal oriented right from the start, and I could completely end to end understand how useful it was. I still to date do not have everything memorized. I would highly depend on the documentation, go over the API documentation again and again to understand what is it, how the syntax works. But my understanding of how the Redis module works is still very fresh for me. That's the primary reason I would highly recommend you guys to go with a goal-oriented approach when you're going for learning a framework. All right, two down, and third one, which I would highly recommend you guys learn with Flutter. If you guys are interested in Flutter, I would highly recommend you guys to also learn about React Native. React Native I knew before. I knew React.js, but hadn't implemented React Native end-to-end. But for this channel, I wanted to do something differently. I wanted to do a comparison of Flutter versus React Native, because a lot of people at that time were talking about Flutter being not equivalent to React Native. I want to really understand what different thing can the React Native do. That's why I learned it. So if you see the timeline I used, it was about the end of the first quarter. I learned React Native in just about 15 days because I already knew how React.js worked. I also have a video series on that. If you guys are interested, check that out. So the React Native was a 15-day thing which I learned, and I made these videos along with the learning curve. So basically what I did was I was multiplying my goals. I was doing some high fast goal approaching, which is nothing but a technique of learning and at the same time applying, doing it again and again. So the first day I started with React Native. I understood what it was, how you implement it, and all of that sort. The next day morning I woke up, I did a simple introduction video on what is React Native, how you can do that. And because I already knew how React.js worked, I could understand how these different modules worked. So I went again with that. In 15 days, I learned the entire React Native. I wouldn't say entire thing again here. You because I understood the crux of the React Native, and I would highly navigate easily now. If you guys wanted me to build a React Native application, I would just take about 3 days to refresh my memory, go with API documentation one side, start building my React Native application on the other side. So that's again a simple technique to multiply your goal by implementing and learning at the same time. So that actually pushes you forward for completing your goal. And I did it in less than 15 days. It's a very basically my fastest framework that I've learned is React Native. All right, number 4 and 5 is a very interesting thing for me because I've never learned or did any kind of a GUI programming with the Python library, Python framework, the Python language. So basically the Python language, I did not even know before I delved into Flutter and React Native that even Python libraries had something equivalent to GUI programming, basically for desktop programming. The first one was the PyQt5. I was very impressed with how PyQt5 worked, and the second one was Kiwi. Now Kiwi was the first one I learned, but I was very interested in talking more about PyQt5 because of a lot of different reasons. The first one I have put it in 4th position for PyQt5 because I enjoyed learning that there were a lot of different things that were available with PyQt5 which was not with Kiwi, so I could do a little bit of a better comparison. And also the PyQt5, I learned it in less than 25 days. The primary reason it took me 25 days was because I wasn't completely spending my time, and also what I did was the first 15 days I learned, and the second 10-15 days I was starting to implement it. So I did a little bit of different approach, seeing how I could remember, how I could keep things in my memory, and it worked out pretty fine. Even now I can build up a PyQt5 application in just about 1 to 2 hours. So that's the understanding that I had. Again, I had a very good, I would say about almost an expert level of understanding with Python because I've been using Python for more than 5 years. So I am using it on an everyday basis with my work also. So a very good deep understanding of Python, and I could use that understanding with Python to learn PyQt5 much more faster. On the other hand, with the Kiwi, I liked the starting portion of Kiwi, but as I went in, I wanted to do some very complex things with it, which was not possible with Kiwi, and it kind of let me down in some ways. So what I did was I learned Kiwi. The first upload in the month of August, I learned Kiwi, and since I couldn't do anything complex with it, I dropped the project. But then I thought, why not talk more about it, talk what is possible, give a possible fix for that. I voiced it out, and I was reached out by a Kiwi developer. The Kiwi developer came to me, he reached out to me and told me this is what we are facing at the moment, and I was very extremely elated to have been in contact with people who are creating libraries for millions of people to use. So that was also an extremely good experience. So I would say the timeline for Kiwi took me about 1 to 2 months. So both these PyQt5 and Python Kiwi, I used a very simple video tutorial. One was Tech with Tim's tutorial, extremely useful. Kiwi, I learned through that. PyQt5 also through Tech with Tim again. So these are 2 important tutorials series I used. It's a YouTube channel. Highly recommend you guys check it out. The third one was the official documentation again. Why I keep saying official documentation was because even though these videos are going to stale out after some point, even my videos are going to stale out after about a year, because PyQt6 is already released. In about another 2 years, PyQt7 will come out. So similarly, the videos will stale out every single year, but the documentation will not stale out. They will keep on updating it, so you can have a very good glimpse of what is happening at that moment, rather than compared to an older version of a video series. So that's what I would highly recommend. Have a documentation reading knowledge as well, and that's what I did for both PyQt5 as well as Python Kiwi. All right, my 5th one I've written down is the machine learning programming frameworks, machine learning ideas. So basically, machine learning is a technology itself, and I've been trying to learn it for about 2 years. And over the period of this year, over the last 12 months, I've put in real effort to pick it up. So this was the successful portion I talked about in the initial portion of this video, meaning that I learned machine learning concepts much more in depth and also clearly in the starting quarter. The primary reason again for that was something I was going to be goal oriented this time. I said to myself I was going to be goal oriented. I learned machine learning, different algorithms related to machine learning in the first quarter. But again, the second and third quarter, I could not spend enough time. So what I did was I couldn't do it. I was again procrastinating. And at the end of the third quarter, I realized that this was not going to work out because I've been trying to learn technology for so long and I've been just procrastinating again and again. So what I did was again started to have a goal-oriented approach. I went and joined myself with a free course on Coursera, which is by the founder of Coursera himself, and it's an extremely good course. It's a Stanford learning course by Coursera, which is extremely useful for me. I learned the basics of it again, much more in depth, and went forward with trying to do some basic implementation. So that was the goal I had, and I was successful by the end of that by implementing a couple of different techniques, couple of different projects. For one was in this channel again, I implemented it something called a sentiment analysis. I talked about it. I did something around that, and the second one was with respect to image recognition. So image recognition, video recognition is my favorite topic of this entire machine learning because it's a very complex one to do, and if you do it properly, you are able to almost get this idea of human-like approach. So I was very interested in image recognition and video recognition, that I wanted to implement it in some project related to my work. I could do it also successfully. So I would say machine learning has been the difficult one to cover, and over the last 10 months, 11 months, I've put in consistent effort, and I would say about 10 hours every week, or I would say 5 hours every week, to understand the different things, and I've also been goal oriented, which has definitely helped. Also, as usual, I've linked all the resources I used for machine learning concepts, algorithms in my description below. Hope you guys check it out. Alright, the final one is TensorFlow, which is a framework, and I would say I'm not completely finished learning it, but I've learned the basics of it very clearly. And since there's almost another 20 days for this year to end, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be learning much more in-depth concepts by spending about 2 hours every day. So as part of this next year, starting from January, I'm coming out with a very detailed series on machine learning itself. It's going to be a 30-day course, basically series of free videos. I'm going to be sharing with you all the knowledge that I had. I understand a lot of different people out there want something for free with respect to machine learning. I'm going to be talking about that in the starting of January. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. So these are the 7 different things I learned in the year of 2020. The last 12 months have been a very packed year for me, and I've never felt happy about a year ending, especially after all the things that I've seen in this year. And I also learned a lot of different things, which has been possible because I've been goal oriented right from the start. Highly recommend you guys to do that and follow that approach as well. And that's it for this video. Hope you guys learned and liked it. If you did, do not forget to give me a like for this video, and let me meet you in something useful in the next video. Until then, Bharat, peace out. Have a super awesome day.